Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. Today's date is October 4, 2021, and in this video we're going to talk about the recent leak concerning Joe Manchin having a deal with Chuck Schumer behind the scenes to limit any infrastructure spending to 1.5 trillion rather than the 3.5 that is up now for votes. So if you like this video, please click like and subscribe. Consider supporting on Patreon. There's a link to Patreon in the video description. So let's get right into this article. This is from Politico. It's by Burgess Everett, dated September 30, 2021. So headline, Manchin proposed $1.5 trillion top line number to Schumer this summer. Manchin also suggested beginning debate no earlier than October 1st. This guy is such a piece of shit. It is unbelievable. Him and Kirsten Sinema, who she has her sycophants out there defending her. People are trying to, hold her accountable and do protests. If she doesn't like being followed into the bathroom by female protesters bothering her, I mean, this is just the beginning, so get used to it. Anyway, so Politico article. Joe Manchin proposed a deal to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer this summer to limit the total cost of Democrats' sweeping spending bill to $1.5 trillion, according to a copy of the agreement obtained by Politico. Manchin also suggested beginning debate no earlier than October 1st. The West Virginia senator has been distributing the document to Democratic colleagues and leaders in recent days to underscore that he has outlined his red lines on President Joe Biden's jobs and families plan. The one-page understanding is dated July 28, right before the Senate passed a bipartisan infrastructure bill that Manchin helped to write, and ahead of a Senate passage of a budget setting up a spending bill as large as $3.5 trillion. Comment, this is, of course, the one that Bernie Sanders wants. In the document, Manchin proposes raising the corporate tax rate to 25%, the top tax rate on income to 39.6%. I'm sure there's some reason for that, but why not just make it 40? Bizarre. Raising the capital gains tax rate to 28%, and says that any revenue from the bill, quote, exceeding 1.5 trillion will go to deficit reduction. God, the deficit, this is your Democratic Party. You got deficit hawks, just amazing stuff. Manchin has repeatedly raised the deficit as one of his major concerns. And in this document, he asks the Federal Reserve to taper its quantitative easing program in the interest of relieving inflation concerns, and asks that no funds in this bill be spent until previous COVID aid money is dispersed. Now, commenting again, can the Federal Reserve even do that? The quantitative easing, they're pumping money in. He's concerned about inflation. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a valid concern that the U.S. economy is in tatters. I agree. I mean, what they did with TARP after 2008, and that was, controversial, the original bailout and that whole era, they now have passed, so they don't have to get repeated authorizations. They can just keep doing it. They can just keep pumping money into the economy. This may pop at some point. I mean, honestly, I don't even know. I tend to focus on just my concerns are in other areas, but absolutely this is an underlying issue that eventually does concern us all. I don't know. If anybody has really good resources on that, how much money they're injecting into the economy, which maybe is not from a libertarian perspective, please leave it in the comments. I know libertarians always talk about this just on principle. Of course, their solutions don't really work at all. Anyway, continuing with the article, quote, Senator Manchin does not guarantee that he will vote for the final reconciliation legislation if it exceeds the conditions outlined in this agreement. The paper reads in bold text. Both Manchin and Schumer signed the document. Schumer wrote a note saying that he will, quote, try to dissuade Joe on many of these. Quote, Leader Schumer never agreed to any of the conditions Senator Manchin laid out, merely acknowledged where Senator Manchin was on the subject at the time, said a spokesperson for Schumer. Quote, Senator Manchin did not rule out voting for a reconciliation bill that exceeded the ideas he outlined, and Leader Schumer made clear that he would work to convince Senator Manchin to support a final reconciliation bill, as he has been doing for weeks, unquote. So wait a minute. He doesn't guarantee that he'll vote for the final thing if it exceeds the conditions. Let's also look at the guy's track record, Come on. And then as far as Schumer not agreeing, he signed it. Why would you sign it rather than just being like, yeah, I hear you? Weird stuff. No, they think that we're stupid, obviously. That's that statement there. So the question, and there's more of this article, but the question, of course, is you have Manchin and Sinema who are playing the part of, the two people who are holding this whole thing up, which obviously raises the question, well, if the Democratic Party takes itself seriously at all, is actually serious about the ideas that it claims to stand for, why would they let two of their own members hold it up? Why would they not sanction them? Why would they not apply every piece of political pressure available at their disposal, and they have it, to twist their arm until they say, okay, we're part of your party? Well, they don't do that, which actually suggests, of course, that they are not serious about this, and they're trying to, get off on a technicality more or less. Oh, Manchin and Sinema, what can we do? Oh, wow, we tried so hard to just, free debate, and I guess that we just didn't convince them, Phew. Well, who is this going over with? The United States is in a terrible, terrible situation. Working people in the United States, have been asked to work through a pandemic. This was like the only imperialist country, super rich country, that did not just give people money on a monthly basis, didn't do serious lockdowns for COVID, just on and on. And now there's a bill up that would actually, engage some reforms, and they don't want to do it. It's just amazing. Also, where does this lead the country? To me, the United States is in an extraordinarily precarious situation. They are just taking this thing all the way, as far as letting it ride over and over and over and over again. I just don't know how long until another 2008 situation arises, but my guess is it would be twice as bad as the original 2008. Confidence in this system is just through the floor at this point. That's not overall a bad thing in terms of, this is a Marxist channel talking about ending capitalism. We're definitely here to agitate, educate, and encourage people to get organized. As a YouTube channel, I'm not sure we can do that much organizing directly, although that does need to happen. But the point being, we don't quite have those solutions in place yet, and the capitalists seem to be self-destructing in many ways. We're entering a period of real turbulence. So hence, people involved in efforts such as this to agitate, educate, and organize, we've really got to step it up fast and make this as firm of a push as we can, because look at how the capitalists are running their system. I think that it's just getting super unstable. Anyway, back to the article. It's unlikely Democrats will agree to Manchin's demands, and it's not clear how flexible Manchin will ultimately be. But the document shows that Manchin has provided Schumer with more information than many rank-and-file Democrats. He's also met with Biden several times since signing the document and has been talking to the White House frequently this week. The White House and other Democrats have largely dismissed Manchin's proposal thus far, but they also need to cater to him in a 50-50 Senate, where Democrats can't lose a single vote to pass a bill via budget reconciliation, which allows passage of economic legislation by a simple majority. In a chaotic press conference on Capitol Hill after this story published, Manchin said the document cleared the way for August's action on his bipartisan infrastructure bill and the Senate budget. As activists harangued Manchin, he explained that in July, he wasn't even sure that there was a need for a reconciliation bill. Are you living in the same universe? What is this? But believed he'd compromised by coming up to 1.5 trillion. So that was his compromise. Why, again, you try to think about this, taking it at face value. Why would they be just catering to this guy? And it's obviously he's playing the part of being the excuse for them not to do the things that they obviously don't want to do. It's the only conclusion you can come to. The guy's a senator from West Virginia, and you're just going to let the fate of your entire, party's credibility, and the country's stability, basically the lives of millions of working people hang in the balance. Anyway, quote, I wasn't trying to be a fly in the ointment at all. I've never been. Sure. I've never been a liberal in any way, shape, or form, Manchin said. For them to get theirs, I guess elect more liberals. I'm not, this is just stunning. I'm not asking them to change. I'm willing to come from 0 to 1.5 trillion. Okay, so again, is this a serious party? Separately, Biden and the White House have been engaging in breakneck negotiations with Senator Kyrsten Sinema, Democrat from Arizona, the other prominent holdout in the Senate. She's generally aligned with Manchin on the spending number, but has expressed more concerns with Democrats' tax plans than Manchin has. Quote, Senator Sinema said publicly more than 2 months ago, before Senate passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, that she would not support a bill costing $3.5 trillion. In August, she shared detailed concerns and priorities, including dollar figures, directly with Senate Majority Leader Schumer and the White House. Claims that the senator has not detailed her views to President Biden and Senator Schumer are false, said John LeBombard, a spokesman for Sinema. Quote, she continues to engage directly in good faith discussions with both President Biden and Senator Schumer to find common ground. I'm not sure what the common ground here is. You have two people holding up your party, which I don't know. You know, and what we speak out frequently against here on this channel is the elect better Democrat strategy, because we need things to be done now. We needed them to be done yesterday. We needed them to be done last decade. And the solution that social democrats usually come up with is elect better Democrats. Well, we don't have time. You know, that's not how the system works. You don't have time to primary somebody now to get other people in there. The system just doesn't really work. And yeah, you know, I believe that Marxists need to work with social democrats and with anarchists today as part of the broader left. Okay, I do think that that needs to happen. It needs better people at the top than Bernie Sanders, for sure. And just in general, a lot of the more mainstream left figures that the U.S. political system has coughed up, both in the electoral politics system and outside of it. In general, the people who get the most media time, not necessarily really the best left leaders. We need to elevate other people. And, you know, like I said, we don't have the numbers right now for a communist movement or just a social democratic or just an anarchist movement to stand on its own and accomplish enough. We do need to work together, obviously from a Marxist point of view, keeping in mind the many historical lessons that social democrats and indeed anarchists can betray a movement and have done many, many times. Of course, you know, anarchists would say similar thing, you know, they never shut up about the Spanish Civil War, for example, which they want to blame on the Soviet Union. Okay, great. How about the, you know, many other times, you know, where it went the other way around? The point is, though, the broader left right now, I do believe that some kind of a coalition does need to happen. Before his massive betrayals, the Bernie Sanders movement was kind of that thing, and there was traction. And I'm not saying, again, abandon principles, not at all. Working in a coalition like that, you do need to differentiate your position from the positions of other people in that coalition. But wherever we can find some kind of common ground, we do need to do that, because the numbers advantage, again, is just too great to ignore. And also, you know, people who might identify today as an anarchist or, you know, hold SOCDEM views today, they might become a Marxist 2 or 3 years from now. I've seen many people that that's happened to. So there are many incentives for working in a coalition like that. Again, you know, watching your back at all times, obviously, and differentiating your position from the other trends and tendencies in the coalition. But it does need to be done. I know that a lot of things fell apart after Bernie Sanders' massive, 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 just transparent betrayals. But this is what leaving things up to the Democratic Party get you. Practically nothing. And some kind of movement clearly does need to happen. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. You know, leave your comments below to continue the discussion in the comments. So, moving forward with the article, Manchin said on Wednesday that the top priority of the Senate's reconciliation bill should be tax reform. And he's generally on the same page with most Democrats in his proposal, though his corporate tax rate idea is below Biden's preference and that of House Dem. When your proposals are below Biden's preference, amazing. Anyway, Manchin is not alone there. Senator Angus King, independent of Maine, said in an interview this week he also prefers a 25% corporate rate. Additionally, Manchin is calling for means testing on as many new programs as possible. What a piece of... Kick him out of the party. It's just kick him out of the party. If they were at all serious, that's what they would do. He's calling for means testing on as many new programs as possible, including healthcare, childcare, and education, quote, targeted spending caps on existing programs, and, quote, no additional handouts or transfer programs. Manchin has repeatedly raised concerns about Biden's plan potentially creating a, quote, entitlement society. This is not a serious party that does not kick someone like that out. An entitlement society, the fucking economy is on its last legs. What are you talking about? People are just trying to survive here. People are working 3 jobs to try to survive, and increasing numbers of people are just like, fuck working. Like, what's the point of even, like, you can go out and do all that shit and you're still going to be broke anyway. It's just, I mean, these are the last stages. There is something major coming up on the horizon here, honestly. And if they don't pass major reforms now, there will be collapse and chaos. And if that's what needs to happen, I mean, you know, they're the ones with the power. That's their decision. And, you know, we on the left need to be able to mobilize people to do something in our own interest in any sort of situation. If they do the reforms, we need to be able to mobilize people in our own interest, whatever the case. But, you know, it would be awesome if things stayed relatively peaceful here. I mean, you know, nobody wants more people thrown out on the street. That's not really in anyone's interest. I'm beside myself that people could be up there going, we don't want an entitlement society in the circumstances that are currently happening. There's a pandemic happening that they're just pretending is not going on. And, you know, again, the concern is additional handouts, quote unquote. There's nothing like to do out here to make a living anymore. It's just, it's beyond me. So anyway, you know, hopefully they don't go for the most genocidal austerity possible, although that's what they're talking about here. And I'm not saying that, you know, these reforms are something something sustainable that we could just go on for decades. I'm absolutely not suggesting that. We on the left need to push for the end of capitalism as, you know, rapidly as possible. But the idea is that you don't want like worst case scenario either in the meantime. And it looks like that's what we're headed for here. Anyway, finally, as chair of the Senate Energy Committee, the Coal State Democrat asks that his panel have sole jurisdiction over any clean energy standard and requests, quote, innovation, not elimination of energy sources. He's also demanding support for technologies that capture emissions from power plants and store them underground, known as carbon capture and sequestration. Further, he wants assurances that fossil fuel subsidies won't be repealed. Meanwhile, there was just a 13 square mile oil spill off the coast of California in Huntington Beach. So, yeah, sure, keep subsidizing fossil fuels, on and on. I mean, I get that we have a transportation system that is totally dependent on them because that's what the fossil fuel companies who control the government want. If you look at who the biggest companies were in the United States in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s and on, it's Exxon, it's Chevron, it's basically car companies and oil companies. So that's, you know, why we have the system we have today. And they've been surpassed only by basically computer companies and some banks, you know, as we get into the 2010s. But basically that's what this is all about. That's who this guy works for. Assurances that fossil fuel subsidies won't be repealed if tax credits for wind and solar power are included in the bill, and asks that if tax credits are extended to electric vehicles. They also include hydrogen-powered vehicles. I don't know. So that's the end of the article. This system isn't working. I don't know how people can think that looking to the Democratic Party, which is obviously running just brazen deceptions, oh, we'd really like to do this, but a senator from a relatively insignificant state, it's not like it's California or something that has like a gigantic economy. Oh wow, this senator from West Virginia, why can't we get him to go along with what we want him to do? Gee, oh darn, I guess we'll just sink further into austerity and ruin. Oh well, and that's of course ruin for you and me, not for the capitalist class whose interests are diametrically opposed to ours. Although we are sinking into environmental catastrophe, which eventually catches up with everyone. So this is infuriating. It's an outrage. And again, we do need to build a Marxist-specific movement within the left. We also need a broad left which is capable of uniting around key issues affecting hundreds of millions of people. And we need to come together to fight for those. As the left becomes stronger, then will be the time, I think, for more, jockeying for power between different factions. As of now, learn your Marxism, join a good organization if there's one in your area. Because in practice, if you join a DSA or something, you are going to be working alongside some anarchists and some soc dems and people who probably haven't bothered labeling themselves, etc. In practice, that is what we need to do to have the numbers at the moment to get stuff seriously done. At the same time, build Marxist-specific organizations. But to me, it seems like, those are not big enough at the present time to carry all the weight. And, where we can work with people from the broader left, this is something to look at. But, and I mention this because it's been a long time since I mentioned this. Okay? It occurred to me that we really haven't discussed this point. I've been focusing a lot on the Marxist education and learning lessons from history and things like that. And obviously, the Democratic Party hasn't been up to much since winning the 2020 election. And then it's been, sort of the betrayals of the squad, the ongoing silence and absence of Bernie Sanders. Well, this $3.5 trillion thing, this is it. This is what they came up with. It may not pass. And then I don't know, where this leaves the situation as a whole as we go into 2022 in just, less than 3 months now. But the economic situation hasn't improved, and we do need to do something. I mean, we're almost back to like a pre-Bernie Sanders moment at this point where it's like, okay, well, the left needs to come together again and make demands and consider actions that we can take in pursuit of those demands. And this time, not let it get taken over by the Democratic Party, probably not let it get taken over by electoralism generally. U.S. elections, you can see it just decade in, decade out. There'll be good momentum on an issue, an election comes and just completely sucks all the air out of the room and just ruins the momentum of the activist movements that are going on. Because so many people are like, they just drop what they're doing. They're like, ooh, an election. Maybe all of our prayers will be answered. They never have been and they never will be. So, again, let's go back to that place of like, look, we're the ones who need to solve our own problems here. And again, at this point, I submit that it probably will take a broader left coalition to do any of that. And let's build up the Marxist wing so that, 5, 10, 15 years from now, maybe we can stand on our own and we don't have to, operate in such a dependent way off of other, left but non-Marxist, non-revolutionary trends, or conversely, just having nothing happen, having nothing happen at all and just watching capitalism slip further and further and further into just despair and ruin. We'd really like to avoid all of that. We need to get some good progress going and some momentum, pull more people into the struggle, and obviously, ideally, orient them into Marxism. So I'll leave it there. What do you think? Leave a comment below. We'll continue the discussion. Thanks for listening. Thanks to the current patrons whose names are on the screen. If you'd like to get your name on the screen, head to patreon.com/socialismforall to sign up for a monthly donation. As little as $2 a month will do it. If you'd like to help out without a donation, like, subscribe, click the notification bell, leave a comment, and share the video on your social media. All of that helps to boost the channel and gets it in front of more people. Whatever you do, whether it's related to this channel or not, in support of socialism, thanks for doing it. Again, join a good organization if there's one in your area, and we'll catch you in the next video.